Tonight, university students from Greece exclusively share with us on their country's hardship. Transport Minister commenced the weekend overnight train service. Welcome to the program.
Also making headlines, Perth pensioners struggle to cope with the utility price hike, and Hong Kong government cuts economic forecast.
Good evening. The European sovereignty debt crisis has brought the world economy into another period of uncertainty, with foreign exchange students from Greece feeling the pinch and worried about their future. Tonight on the evening news, an exclusive interview with Greek university students in Perth as they share with us what their families are going through in their home country and why the experts feared that this crisis is far from over. Since the start of the European sovereignty debt crisis, another wave of fear has gripped many citizens and financial investors worldwide, as Greece is at the middle of the spotlight. But the panic doesn't stop there, with George and Aris, both overseas university students from Greece, feeling the squeeze. Every day they stay tuned to the latest parliament debate or news stories from their home country, hoping things will get better.
The situation is it's quite strange, you know. It's the peculiar thing is that no one believed a couple of years ago that we should end up like this.
I have a friend, for example, that is working like 8 months in a paper without get paid at all. And my parents, for example, they're working for the state and they're getting 100 euros less every month. Because these are the meters the government wants to take in order to save Greece, in theory.
With the national economy going downhill, more tax increases and salary cuts are raging towards the Greeks, which makes finding a job sounds like a joke and living becomes a challenging task. It's not a surprise that disappointments are overflowing, with Greeks uploading their own songs onto YouTube to share their sorrow. Economics Associate Professor at Murdoch University John Gunters explains to us what Greece can do to solve this problem. He also says the financial companies are now betting on who will be the next winner in the global financial war.
Well, look, what they should do is, which they've been trying to do it now, is A, be more financially responsible. There's no doubt about it. You know, the Greek governments, consecutive Greek governments, have made a few mistakes. Big mistakes. They've borrowed too much, they've employed too many people in the public sector, and they didn't collect enough taxes. They have to find a way to find some kind of flexibility within the euro. The European countries, the European Union, has to find a way to allow some movement, like I said, either appreciating like the Australian dollar or depreciating by different countries. There's got to be a way. But the other thing, as I mentioned, is this global financial war. Who is going to, reign supreme? Is it going to be the euro, or the dollar, the American dollar, or the yuan, or any other kind of major currency? And people are kind of, like big hedge funds, financial companies are betting who's going to be the winner. That's destructive.
With the student exchange program is coming to an end, George and Aris will be heading back to their country in a few weeks of time. Although the future is not that bright, they are looking forward to go back and make a difference for their country.
The truth is that I want to be in Greece and I want to try to make things better, if I can, but so all of us, we have to change.
The Transport Minister Troy Buswell has announced that a trial of overnight train services lasting 6 months will begin this Friday, after meeting with the Facebook campaign creators Seb Brody and Scott Brosens. The trains will be free of charge from 2:15 to 4 a.m, giving people who wish to travel in the early hours of the morning the options of public transport.
This weekend marks the start of a 6-month trial period of free trains that will run on Friday and Saturday nights. Transperth will run a free 4 a.m. train on all train lines on Saturday and Sunday mornings from November until April, when they will re-evaluate its effectiveness and make a decision on its future. At a vampire-themed advertising campaign to launch this new service, Transport Minister Troy Buswell said it makes good sense to maximise the use of our resources, given that thousands of West Australians want later train services on the weekends, and he hopes that the promotional campaign and assistance from a number of stakeholders, including the WA Nightclub Association, would help make this trial a success.
There are a certain number of people who occupy the Northbridge nightclub region after about 2 o'clock, okay? All the advice we have is that they leave at around a certain time and that the 4 o'clock train should pick up most of that.
According to the Facebook campaign creators, Seb Brodie and Scott Bronson, now is the best time to launch the trial with summer approaching. Brodie and Bronson also expressed their amazement at the success of their social media campaign, calling this a good response from the government.
We were just lucky enough to be the first to say it, and I think it's because not a lot of people have faith that we're going to be listened to, so it's amazing. It really is for the first time using that social media rather than just politicians deciding for us. We've decided for us, you know.
Nightclub Manager Association spokesperson Clint Ford also calls it a terrific initiative and encourages the public to take it.
Potentially it gives people a safe, free way of getting home. You know, there's issues with taxis and the amount of people that are often out on a Friday and Saturday night. You know, nightclubs are open to 5, so if there's a free train at 4, hopefully that encourages people to take that home.
Shibs Way, DHK News.
Protesters from the countryside voiced their concerns in a rally at Parliament House this week about the closure of the 700-kilometre Wheatbelt Rail line, which will force thousands of trucks onto the metro roads. The opposition accused the state government of neglecting the road safety and urged the decision to be reversed.
In July this year, Transport Minister Troy Buswell announced that the government would not fund Tier 3 rail lines, which were inefficient and expensive, which would force grain transport onto roads and creating an additional 57,000 truck movements on Western Australian roads each year. However, according to the Shadow Transport Minister, Ken Travis, the decision to shut the rail lines was based on old data that is flawed, that puts a lower value on human life than more modern studies now use. He says rail is estimated to be between 6 and 9 times safer than road transport, and also accused the government of neglecting the concerns of citizens of metropolitan Perth because those trucks will come onto the metropolitan area.
It is a bad decision because of the economics of it. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for the local communities, and it's bad for road safety. The Barnett government must reverse this decision and do the investment that we need in our Wheatbelt Rail and get trucks off the roads of Western Australia.
Mr Bill Cowan, the chairman of Wheatbelt Railway Retention Alliance, adds that it's more economical to use rail as it will be cheaper to maintain and repair compared to the investments required to upgrade the current roads.
The biggest concern is actually that it's a safety issue in the country, and we probably feel a bit like second-class citizens in that other areas have been helped and we haven't.
Minister of Transport Troy Buswell does not think that the increase in traffic in country roads will be more dangerous, as more than $100 million will be spent on road infrastructure to boost safety.
We're investing $110 million as part of the Tier 3 rail arrangements. That $110 million will address a whole range of issues with country roads and ensure that where that grain has to be moved to those rail bulkheads, it's done as safely as possible.
Alex Stelbovics, DHK News.
Opposition leader Eric Ripper has revealed a report listing a suburb-by-suburb breakdown of the average increase in electricity bills from 2009 to 2011. The report reveals the Perth suburbs hit hardest by increasing electricity prices, with Maranginiup in the city's north being the worst affected, with a $212 increase on the average power bill since 2009.
Pensioners and young families are among the many West Australians struggling with rising utility costs. Electricity prices have gone up 57% since 2009 and are expected to rise by another 30% over the next 3 years. A suburb-by-suburb breakdown released in Parliament has revealed which areas of Perth have been hardest hit by the recent increases in electricity prices. The breakdown shows the average bill increase between the start of 2009 and the start of this year.
Government ministers in particular need to understand what they're doing to Western Australian families. Liberal members of Parliament in outer suburban electorates need to understand what they're doing to West Australian families. Let me give you some of the figures. In Wangara, in the seat of Wanneroo, a $192 increase in the average bill.
The General Manager at People Who Care, a volunteer organisation which provides help to people in need. He says that over the last 3 years, double the amount of people are coming to his organisation for help.
Yeah, over probably the last 2 years, we've noticed a lot more requests for services at People Who Care. We've got about 3,000 clients. 3 years ago, 1 out of every 5 or 6 people were asking for help. Now it's 1 out of every 3 people. And the biggest request for help is paying power bills.
The Hardship Utility Grant Scheme, or HUGs, have recently revealed the amount of people who have received help from HUGs to pay electricity bills has quadrupled since this time last year.
Well, it's made me think about the bottom line. I keep my eye on the power, and I don't have the hot water going all the time. I turn it off after about 5 hours. Once I've had my shower, I turn it off, and then there's enough for me today with living in the retirement centre.
People are suffering. I've always been brought up there's people worse off than me, but still, I still do battle, and I find that I sort of only just survive.
Under the Barnett government, utility prices are expected to continue to soar, leaving more West Australians to suffer from high electricity costs. Corr, BHK News.
The High Court has rejected a judicial review brought by a Filipino maid and a Hong Kong-born son for permanent residency. Josephine Gutierrez and her son, which is 14 years old, challenged the refusal of the immigration authorities to grant them permanent identity cards. They argued that the decision was made without properly analysing evidence that they did make Hong Kong their permanent place of residence. However, Mr. Justice Johnson Lam agreed with the authorities, says Ms. Gutierrez hadn't taken any step to prove she lived permanently in the territory. She also says her son did not qualify for the right of a board because he hadn't stayed in the SAR continuously for 7 years.
The Hong Kong government has cut its forecast on economic growth this year after a sharp fall in the amount of overseas exports. The government has cut its headline inflation for the whole year from 5.4% to 5.2%. Government economist Helen Chan says she expects the economy to slow down further, with the cost of living expected to continue to rise. Mrs. Chan said domestic consumption is a strong driver in the economy at the moment. However, this may not last.
Here's Stelbovics with the latest sports news.
Thanks very much, guys. Starting this week with NBA basketball, and with the team owners stating late last week that they were done negotiating, the NBA Players Association is set to be held accountable to fans if they don't decide to accept the new proposed collective bargaining agreement. With the insecurity in the new deal felt by many of the game's players, this new deal, if accepted, means the very real possibility of a 72-game season beginning on December 15. To cycling. And just when it seemed he was at his lowest, disgraced drug cheat Floyd Landis has sunk to further depths this week as a French court has handed down a suspended sentence to the former US cyclist and fined energy giant EDF after ruling that both used a shady corporate espionage operation to hack computers back in 2006. In something mirroring a Hollywood movie script, the guilty verdict was handed down after it was discovered that a former spy and ex-commando set up a French consultancy which then hired a computer hacker to break into the computer systems of an anti-doping laboratory and environmental group Greenpeace. All this to try and clear Floyd's name after being stripped of the 2006 Tour de France. And guys, if you're going to have a punt this weekend, I reckon we could shortly see a victory gift from Sebastian Vettel to our man Mark Webber, if you can just stay in touch in the last part of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, starting in a moment. And that is all in sports for this week.
Look forward to that race, and that's how the world looks tonight.
Remember, you can join our Facebook page at the link below.
You're also welcome to join mine. Search Ivan Leung and click like.
Thanks for your company. Good night.
See you next week.